Obvious comparison would be to Sable, not in terms of your wrestling ability, which you clearly said on another show on this network that you could kick her ass. And there was an interesting confrontation that was really bringing to light. And I'm wondering, as you look back at Sable, and you now have had time to reflect, obviously, since she has been employed by Playboy as well, and since she has moved on, what's your take on her? What do you have to say to her?
Well, I really think that, you know, I don't know what happened personally between Sable and the company.
Well, what's your take on her?
Personally, I never had a lot of interaction with Rena, and I think at that time the business was a lot different, where we would go on talk shows and we were a little bit more in character. You know, a lot of things have developed over the last few years that everything's changed, and I think people are a little bit more themselves. And so at that time, I know on the talk show I was highly disappointed because I felt like I was trying to play a little bit and be in character, and she took a lot of things very seriously. So I think we had some conflicting personalities, but I certainly don't have anything against her personally. And knowing that we work for a very big company and there's a lot involved, she may have very well had problems. I don't know that. So I try not to judge.
First of all, Stephanie McMahon right now is the #1 woman in the company.
Right.
Give me your reaction to that, given the fact that, in a lot of ways, she hasn't paid her dues at all. Some would say maybe you haven't paid your dues. She hasn't paid any dues at all.
Well, I think she's paid her dues in a different way, and she's not a wrestler. And she is part of the McMahon family.
Don't lose the candor. As the first part of the show was amazing, speaking from the heart. Any heat between you and
I think that
Stephanie?
Stephanie's paid her dues since the time that she was a little girl. She knows far more about this business than I do, but I look at it from a different standpoint because I have to get in the ring and do something so totally different than she does.
All right. What would you say to Trish Stratus, who's now carving out her niche in the WWF, and I think could go in one of two directions: the traditional role of the woman, which is to put on a bikini and wrestle in the mud on a pay-per-view, or the Chyna role? What advice would you offer her as she's now molding her career?
Well, I think Trish Stratus is a prime example to me of somebody that was hired with no ability. And I think that she was hired strictly because of her looks. And although she has surprised me because she's been very willing to do a lot and she's learning very quickly. However, in my opinion, Trish didn't have to pay her dues. So, you know, I still think about that, and I still think that she should have to, as well as other women. But I think that my advice to her would be to keep doing what she's doing and to, you know, recognize that, realize that, so because you're going to last a lot longer if you do.
Right. If Trish got hired for her looks, which is undeniable, why'd you get hired?
One, I wouldn't take no for an answer.
Yeah, but you know what? There's a lot of women who wouldn't take no for an answer who end up hearing no. You know, Vince McMahon is not the kind of guy that you can force into a corner. So it's got to be more than that.
That's true, but it would have gone far beyond that, I think. You know, I've been shoving my physique and, you know, my persona down people's throats a long time before the World Wrestling Federation, too, and people said no. So if it was not wrestling, it would have been something else. However, I'm very lucky that that happened because this has been the best platform I could think of.
Right. So why'd you get hired, though? Why do you think? What made you unique? If Trish right now could say, I got hired because of my looks, why did Chyna get hired? And not no for an answer. I'm not taking no for an answer on this. Was it your look?
It could be. It could have been, yeah. But aside from my look, I think a look that looked as very freakish, oddity, rather than what the typical sex sells look. Also, I trained very hard to get there, and I trained with clothesline guys. My arms were black and blue and got thrown around the ring and broke some bones in training. And you know, I faxed my picture every day and put little resumes together and went to every show I could and talked to a lot of people. And